Hi, my name is Borja Ruiz-Gutiérrez and I am a professor at the Faculty of Teacher Training at the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. In this video abstract, I present the key ideas of my article, which explores the promises and limitations of Jacques Rancière's political philosophy for the field of inclusive education, particularly regarding the inclusion of disabled students. Drawing on Rancière's concepts of equality, politics, and the distribution of the sensible, I examine how his ideas challenge conventional understandings of inclusion and offer a radical rethinking of what it means to be included. Traditionally, inclusive education is understood as a process of bringing previously excluded groups into the mainstream educational system. This model assumes a clear division between an inside and an outside, and often fails to question the structures that produce this division. Rancière's perspective reverses this logic. Inclusion for him is not something granted by those on the inside, but something claimed by those on the outside, those who are not recognized as speaking beings within the established social order. He argues that equality must be presupposed, not pursued as a distant goal. This leads to his concept of political subjectification, where those who are excluded assert themselves as subjects by disrupting the existing distribution of roles and identities. Applied to education, this means that inclusion should not merely be about integrating students into existing structures, but about challenging the very structures that define who belongs and who does not. However, this radical view also presents limitations. I critically examine these limitations of Rancière's political philosophy when applied to inclusive education. I highlight challenges in adapting this notion of equality, especially for individuals with communicative or cognitive disabilities who may struggle to politically subjectify themselves. I also critique Rancière's concept of inclusion, arguing that it still relies on a binary of inside and outside and overlooks the role of institutional efforts to include marginalized groups. In order to propose a philosophical solution to the limitations of Rancière's concept of equality in inclusive education, I draw on Jean-Luc Nancie's notion of singularity. Rancie argues that equality stems not from shared capacities but from each being's unique incommensurability, redefining language as mutual recognition and meaning-making rather than mere speech. This perspective allows for the recognition of all human expressions as valid voices, even those outside conventional norms. Campaigns like Assume That I Can and We the 15 are good examples of how disabled people assert their equality. Ultimately, the work suggests that both internal and external forms of inclusion can coexist unproblematically. I conclude that while Rancière's political thought offers valuable insights, its limitations in inclusive education require caution. Nancie's concept of equality as shared singularity offers a more inclusive framework, affirming diverse expressions as meaningful. I believe that both internal and external efforts toward inclusion are essential for improving disabled people's lives.